I'm here today with Fraser Brown, who's the Managing Director of MotorVise Automotive, and Martin Anderson, who's the Managing Director of Lemon Business Solutions. And today we're going to be talking about customer service in the motor sector. So Fraser, first of all, customer service, the focus of customer service in the motor trade has changed in the past few decades. So how has it gone from the reputation of the dodgy used car salesman to the customer experience that we have today?
I think things had to move on dramatically because I think the motor industry had a very bad reputation if you go back into the 1970s and early 80s. I also believe that customers expect an awful lot more. I think if we go back to the 70s and 80s, car dealerships would often internally talk about what they were going to do to a customer. So they're going to qualify them. They were going to try and close the customer. They even have things called closing rooms where they would take customers to close them. And I think back in those days, it was a very, very different environment. These days, we advocate in our training programs for car dealerships a customer experience framework where we supply training to support the car dealers in giving the customers what they want. So the whole experience is about ensuring that we fully understand what the customer wants. Once we fully understand what the customer wants, we talk to the customer about potential solutions. And once we've come up with a few solutions for them, we will then kind of ask them, do they want to take ownership of it, and then begin an open ownership experience. And things are very, very different because dealers need to ensure that customers are recommending them and referring them to other people so that their business can continuously grow. I think it's also important that dealers understand that customers in their local area are their key concern these days. If we go back 10 years ago, dealers were very much focused on pumping cars out all over the UK, whereas these days dealerships have understood that it's very important that you look after your local marketplace to ensure customers are coming back into your business to get their servicing work done, their repair work done, and then ultimately to buy another car from you. So they build and create a fantastic customer experience to create loyalty and ensure that customers want to come back into their dealership for a future experience that'll be similar to what they've had already because they had a great time.
Well, thanks, Fraser. So, Martin, in the past, the motor trade customer service has been a primarily face-to-face affair, but now people want to be able to communicate more remotely, like online, through text message, through email. So how does having a remote customer service agent attached to a dealership help with this?
And it's exactly that. We've seen, obviously, such a change this year in how people actually contact businesses and buy off people. It's been a shift beyond anything we've seen. And I think as you go into the different industries, like the automotive industry, etc., now really people have got to sort of take best practice of where people are doing other things in other areas. And the ability for, I think as Fraser was saying, the ability for the client to contact the dealership however they wish to contact them, whenever they wish to contact them, it is critical now. So probably now gone are the days where people maybe will just walk onto the forecourt. Obviously the card at the moment, that things may not go back to that really. So they need to have an opportunity to get in touch, be it by social media, the SMS, the web chat, that kind of thing, or even via the phone. And it's having that ability to use something that's called omni-channels, multiple channels of interactivity, that really can sort of bring people into the business and get those interactions going. And it's really important now that we use kind of other skill sets such as the customer service agents who know how to do this and got the technology, and blend that together with maybe the more traditional ways of working to give the dealerships a chance to actually reach as many sort of potential people as possible to sort of promote the solutions, as you say now, rather than just kind of essentially sell them a car. It's, what do you want and how can we get it to you and how can we make it as easy as possible for you to contact us.
Brilliant. Fraser, a lot of showrooms had to close during the lockdown. Has this started a trend for more focus on online selling or customer contact, have you seen?
It's really, really interesting. During lockdown, there were some dealerships that were achieving 80% of their normal order take, all through non-face-to-face methods, so via email, via telephone, and as we move up the communication kind of tools to things like video conferencing via Zoom, FaceTime, and various methods of contact, because that's how the customers wanted to interact. And just because lockdown was on, people were still going to work and still needed a car. So the customers found whatever means necessary to communicate with their car dealerships, online chat, lots of other things. So where dealers maintained that contact throughout lockdown, maintained the channels that they were allowed to maintain with the customers, they've done very, very well indeed. And actually, as I say, up to 80% of their normal order take throughout that period. In terms of a long-term legacy, I think we need to provide customers with what they want in terms of communication channels. They need to be able to interact with you almost 24 hours a day is the expectation these days, where they can communicate via online chat, via speaking to an operative. And many car dealerships have opened up either their own internal call centres or have developed contact centres with third parties such as Lemon, who can then handle the out-of-hours calls for them. And customers are interacting with that. Very often up till 10 o'clock at night, you see good call volumes coming into the businesses. And that is giving customers what they want.
Thanks, Fraser. Martin, have you also seen a higher demand in requests for remote selling and servicing since the lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, exactly that. I mean, Fraser touched on it, really. We've seen that drive now since kind of lockdown started easing and the dealerships are opening again now. There's just far more sort of volume coming through after probably what was obviously a very quiet time due to the government restrictions that are in place. Because of that now, because of now the customer can no longer just walk into the dealership, the forecourt. Essentially, they're now driving that interaction, that contact through other means, like we said, like the phones, like the web chat, like the video calls, etc., etc. So the dealerships are potentially having to pivot how they operate as a model. So they can't necessarily man all the phones or the phone calls that are coming in with the current staffing levels they've got, because the guys still in the dealerships are having to deal with people that are coming in on appointments. So they're now having to put the resource in place to actually enable them to answer those calls or answer those emails or video calls that are coming in, really. And that's driven sort of additional sort of services and interest in our business, in that kind of the outsourcing of the process and the contact centre that we're doing. And then you see, obviously, now coming out of the lockdown, the need for the dealerships to drive up sales naturally after a lean period. And the work sort of MotorVise and the great things they're doing there are looking at sort of driving additional campaigns into them, getting additional, getting the sales targets up, but getting their interactions coming in. And really, it's all about kind of the businesses working together to ensure that the customer's getting a fantastic service. And I think that's partnership between businesses such as ours and the dealerships and the things that the MotorVise are doing are really sort of helping the client deliver and helping the businesses as well.
Excellent. Fraser, I know you kind of touched on this in your last answer, but what do you think the future looks like for customer service in the motor trade?
Well, I think we're going to see a bit of a blended approach. What we have seen is footfall increase significantly back into the showrooms, largely on an appointment-only basis. And customers do want to interact face-to-face. So we are seeing probably 80 to 85% of the normal level of interaction on a face-to-face, socially distanced basis within the showrooms. Cars are a physical product. You know, people want to touch and feel and drive and experience those. And that's never going to change. But in terms of providing customers with the different channels of communication with the dealerships, I think what lockdown has done is opened up customers to utilising the likes of Zoom that they may never have used before. And now they know that that option is there for them, and they've got used to interacting via customer portals or via live chat, and being able to speak to people representing the dealership outside of hours. Customers aren't going to go back to where we were before. We are going to see this omni-channel approach to communications and interactions with customers in the long term. But we're not going to get away from the need for having car showrooms and having that face-to-face interaction. And we never will, because cars are large physical objects. And I'm very confident that we'll be seeing car dealerships here well into the next decade.
Brilliant. Martin, do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's that blended approach of the customer service. You know, we need to let the clients come into the dealerships. We need to give them the ability to go on the web chats and emails. But what's really important, and this is the great thing about technology these days, is the fact that you can interact with a client on one channel and you can jump to another channel and to another channel, physically, and back again, backwards and forwards, really easy with the technology. And it's that sort of fantastic blended ability to do all these things that really, I think, is an awesome customer service to the client. And I think Fraser nails on the head. At some point, what lockdown's done for us is kind of expedited all these technologies, which were kind of hovering there in the background. We knew we could kind of use, but a little bit of edge scenarios. But actually now these are day-to-day things, and bringing that technology into focus is giving people a bit more time back. It means when they're coming in for dealerships appointments, the dealership know who's coming in, when they're coming in, the kind of solution they want as well. And it also means that person, they are coming in, they know they're coming in to see someone, maybe not just sort of having to hang around. So it's a fantastic opportunity, I think, for all people involved.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. So we've been joined today by Fraser Brown, Managing Director of MotorVise Automotive, and Martin Anderson, who's the Managing Director of Lemon Business Solutions. You can find both of them online. And I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you very much.